Hello, everybody. Welcome, cinephiles, watchers of film, whatever you want to be called. We're here. Another episode of the Unwatched Pile.
See, I never know whether to start talking when the music ends or to start talking when you start talking. So I don't know. I still don't know what to do. We're 9 episodes into this.
The music never ends. The music never ends.
It really doesn't. It's
still going in my head because it's
still
so
going
catchy.
in my head as well.
Yeah.
We're back here for another, I would say, fun-filled episode of the Unwatched Pile number 9. It's been that time already. It feels like it goes by so fast.
You say that every time.
I do say that every time.
It's literally a monthly show. It's a long time.
It feels like 30, it's every other week.
Roughly 30 days.
Oh, okay.
Since the last time we've done this. I'm just saying.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna agree with you on that, just to go with it, just to move things along.
Well, yes. But just in case anybody has never been a part of this show before, the Unwatched Pile is a show where we all, me and Andrew and a guest, all pick first-time watches that we own in our collections. Because sometimes, we blind buy. I know I do it a lot. I know a lot of us collectors do that. So we can get off our ass and watch something that's in our collections. We all choose one. We bring it in here. We talk about it a little bit, get our first impressions. Maybe one of us has seen it, so we can kind of have a little bit more of a deeper conversation. And then after that, we go back into our collections and say, hey, what would pair nicely with that? And then we kind of just, talk about that film and say how it fits well with that first watch. So, yeah, that is the show. And as usual, like I said, we have a special guest with us once again, and he is no stranger to this channel. He has been on, I think, 3 other times on Chasing Bulls, and he is now going to make his first appearance here on the Unwatched Pile, and that is graphic designer Scott Saslow. What's up, man?
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, man. We love having you, man. You and Andrew always tend to somehow get Star Trek in there at some point in every conversation we have, even if it's not even something that's got a release or anything. You just, we love you, man. You do great work. We love seeing, we always love seeing that you got work, getting put out all the time through Arrow or
it's a good thing that it's a good thing that you promote it, just because it would get lost in the ether otherwise. So I always post it, and I always try to get the slight little mentions in there during our show, just in if I see it in time, just because it gives people a chance to
honestly
familiarize
themselves. He is your best podcast.
I'd be a hype man, I guess.
He does. He hype mans you on any time it's Scott Saslow's worked on design. He mentions it. He does. So yeah, awesome to have you back again.
Thank you.
Now, I know this is different for everybody, but how hard was it? I know Andrew even has this problem. How hard was it to come up with a first-time watch for you?
I think my situation's a little unique. When you guys first asked me, of course, my first thought was, it's my collection. I've seen everything, but
that's how it is for a lot of people. But
then I realized, I have this whole bin of movies I've worked on for the labels that I haven't really seen. And at that point, I had just gotten my copy of the Psycho 4K set from Arrow, and I had yet to see the sequels. So I thought, you know what, let's do Psycho 2.
Awesome.
And enough time, I hope this isn't cheating. I didn't even think of it until now. Enough time I think had passed from the time I worked on it to the time it was released, because I worked on the booklet. So, there were a couple of spoilers here and there in the booklet that I read. Yeah. But I think at that point I'd already forgotten. So watching the movie, it was pretty much all new for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, it did not hinder my enjoyment of anything. And, there were surprises and good times.
Yeah. We'll get into it, man. We'll get right. But before we do, I do want to, of course, Josephine always comes in hot at the beginning of our shows with a lot of things. She wants to talk about some of her first time watches. She watched Hollywood Shuffle from '87, Time After Time. Good one there. Scent of a Green what's that? Papaya? Whatever that is.
Papaya.
Papaya. Yeah, I see. I can't read. Set It Off. I don't know. Was it Tirama? And then Dead End Drive-In. I've heard of that one. I haven't seen that, though. And then she's got Hardboiled. I've definitely seen that one. Arizona Dream and Over the Edge. That's a big one. That's a good one. I think that's got an Arrow release. That's probably the one that I think me and Andrew both have. And then she's been listening to some more music, more Matchbox 20, Beer Naked Ladies. She's just listening to my life. This is what I all grew up on.
Yeah. Now that I'm looking at it, it's all stuff I listened in my formative years.
Yes.
Or our formative years. Like I said last time, I think we had a live stream. She mentioned Matchbox 20. My first CD was Matchbox 20.
The Matchbox 20 CD. Yeah.
They were big back in the late 90s.
Yeah, and she's currently reading The Extraordinary Adventures of Alice Tonks from Emily Kinney. She's doing a lot. She's doing more than I wish I could be you, Josephine. I wish I had the time to do all this watching.
I have a reading goal actually every year.
Do you?
And it's always to read 35 books, and I never reach there.
35? Why 35?
35. I don't know. It was just I just gradually went up over time. Like it started at 25, then to 30, then I'm like 35. Why not? Shoot for the moon, I guess, for me. There are some people who read 100 books to over 100 books and more, and I'm like, my goodness, you must have a lot of time and energy.
I don't think I've read a book front to back, and it's been a minute.
I literally just finished rereading actually The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien.
So you're rereading books. Way to make me feel better. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm rereading some stuff, but
Scott, when was the last time you were able to read a book?
I try to get reading done when I before the design career took off and I was working on set as a background extra. Often you spend a lot of the time in what they call holding before they call you to set. And I got so many books read, even sometimes one book in a day. Yeah. But I've started reading the Horatio Hornblower series by C.S. Forrester, which is an influence on Star Trek.
I knew he would get it in here, man.
Yeah, I already had an idea of how to bring it up later anyway.
Okay. Well.
I'm on the third book in the series. I just haven't had time to keep going. And I mostly read nonfiction anyway. So I'm always on the hunt for like a nonfiction book to read in between the fiction ones. But I was hoping this year to do one book a week, and no. Hasn't happened.
Right.
Well,
right.
You know what? I somewhat I guess I'm kind of lying. I read a lot of kids' books to my daughter. A lot. And multiple times, So I guess I am reading. Just reading The Hungry Caterpillar. Like Classic. I've read it like 20 times.
Classic.
So, that and there's one that I've read like at least 10 times now. Llama Llama Red Pajama. Yeah.
I recommend Go Dog Go. One of my favorites as a kid.
Yes, that's a good one. So yeah, I guess I am reading, just not exactly my grade level.
True.
True. Yeah. But all right, so let's do this thing. Let's get into the Unwatched Pile. As Scott has said at the beginning, he has decided as his first time watch was going to be Psycho 2. So please take the stage, Scott. Tell us your first impressions of Psycho 2.
I enjoyed it. I can't imagine the reaction at the time. A sequel to Psycho. How dare you? And 20 years later, but no, I genuinely enjoyed it. I thought Perkins was great. I thought they did a good job of sort of recreating the interior of the house and the motel and sort of expanding on the world from the first one without it being, like a shameless cash grab. So there are a couple of acting moments here and there. Meg Tilly, she kind of grew on me though as the movie went along, especially when you find out kind of what's really, spoilers, when you find out kind of what's really going on. Tech credits. Love the Albert Whitlock effects and the matte paintings. There's a great high angle that's sort of distorted, like a wide shot, where someone's running out. Love that. Love the time lapse with the clouds and everything. Jerry Goldsmith's score, and I can't blame him. Obviously, he was not going to just copy what Bernard Herrmann did for the original. He sort of did his own thing. I wouldn't say it's a top 10 or top 20 score of his, but it works. God, was it 1982, I think, that the film came out?
I believe so. No, 83.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, since 82, I couldn't imagine him scoring this and Poltergeist in the same year. That would have been just before this.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. You know, great to see Robert Loggia. And you know, a few other familiar faces. And yeah, towards the end, it's like you almost don't know who's killing, because it's not him. He's not doing it. So, and there's some twists and turns towards the end. And unfortunately, I kind of, again, having sort of forgotten what the twist was from working on the booklet, even if I had never worked on that and I was watching it completely cold, I would have figured out, sort of the villain. We are doing spoilers here, right?
As long as if spoilers for Psycho 2, so move ahead a couple minutes.
Right. For those of you who don't want to listen, just completely block your ears or run away.
When Norman, he gets out of the psychiatric hospital, he goes back to the motel to run that. He gets a job at a diner nearby, which I think is actually mentioned in the first film, that there's a diner down the road. He gets a job at the diner, and he meets Mrs. Spool, who at one point says, oh, I think it's very Christian to forgive and forget, and welcomes him aboard despite his history. And immediately I thought, her. And I hate the reason why I knew that. I'm not religious at all, but it's like, oh, the religious woman, that's good. He's going to be up to no good. And it's a cliche at this point, and I was correct. But it was still very well done, I thought.
What did you think about the fact that, compared to, of course, the first Psycho, having it being color? How did that make you feel about the kind of like the I get the atmosphere of the same location? Did that feel different to you? It felt different to me, obviously.
For me, it worked, and I actually do like how they started it with the shower scene in black and white.
Yeah,
and then out the window, the house, and then sort of crossfade from black and white to color. I thought that was very well done.
Yeah.
But it was okay. I mean, the film, it was shot by Dean Cundey, who at that time would have been working with John Carpenter, Halloween, The Thing, etc.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not quite as out there or stylish as the next film in the Psycho series, but it gets the job done. There's some good stuff. There's some angles where they're clearly paying homage to the first film. Like when he's carrying, her up the stairs at the end, and it's sort of the same angle as we see at one point in the first film. I thought that was very well done. There's some great sort of crane shots, from this room to outside over here and so on. And all shot at Universal, just on the back lot, I think.
I think it was.
Yeah, and you got Richard Franklin, who directed it.
Right.
Australian director.
He was kind of an Alfred Hitchcock protege.
Super fan.
Super fan protege. So he tried to emulate it as much as possible. And I think that's kind of where, for me, the film really has its positives, is that it feels like what would happen if Alfred Hitchcock directed a film in the 80s. Like, what would an 80s Alfred Hitchcock horror suspense film look like? What would it feel like, given the time in which, the 80s is a very specific time for horror movies and such? What would that look like? And that's kind of like what it feels like. So I've always really liked that. I think, Anthony Perkins played that character pretty much up until his passing. Like, he really would delve fully into that character. In terms of being committed to it. I mean, he even directed the third film.
Yep.
Which is interesting in and of itself. And then the fourth film I was actually just talking with a friend the other day about it. The fourth film was a Showtime TV movie. You know what I mean? So it was even that, for it to be that unique, I think it came out in the early 90s too. So it's very interesting how long the Psycho kind of franchise with Tony Perkins lasted for. And also, I didn't realize that you can consider Psycho a horror movie franchise, right along with Halloween, like Scott mentioned, or Nightmare Before Elm Street, or
before Elm Street.
Yeah, before Elm Street. What did I say? On Elm Street?
No, you said before.
I did. Well,
it is on.
Yes. Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street. And then I don't know why I said before, but all the other
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah. That's probably what it was. That's not a franchise yet, though. but you can
kind of not yet.
Yeah, you can put it in that vein. And I mean, obviously they've gone back to the Psycho well, with Bates Motel TV series from a few years ago that was on A&E, and starring Freddie Highmore and Farmiga as the mother character, really kind of delved into that whole relationship, which Psycho 4, I believe, did that as well. So they kind of farmed the same territory in terms of the formative years of a young Norman Bates and his mother son relationship. But yeah, Psycho 2, I know a lot of people tend to like it, and for horror sequels, we all know like horror sequels can be truly great or truly bad. I think there's more bad ones than good ones, I guess, depending on your opinion. But this one is surprisingly good for a movie that is as iconic as Psycho is. This is not a bad follow-up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering, having not been around, I'm wondering what the expectations were. I mean, if your expectations are low and you go in and you watch it and you're pleasantly surprised,
right.
I don't think I doubt anyone's expectations were super high, but I think once Perkins signed on, it had his seal of approval.
I think that's the key too. Oftentimes, some sequels in general, not even horror sequels, you can't get the original cast back, or you're missing some from the original cast. It takes away from the original feel that perhaps the studio is trying to go for. I can tell you this: it's better than the sequel to The Birds. Birds 2 is not great.
Haven't seen it. I know it's available. I think Vinegar Syndrome put it out last year, but haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, obviously film news was different then. Like there was magazines where you'd get news about, actors doing another movie or something. It wasn't quite like it was. The buzz wasn't like that. Back then it was like the movie came out. There was a trailer probably a couple months before, and you had to see it in theaters, and
you would probably maybe see ads maybe on TV, maybe obviously in the magazines and publications and things like that. It's not like today, not even close.
It's not. I mean, the thing is Psycho came out 1960? Yeah, so this was 23 years later, so people probably had no expectations for this movie. And honestly, you should go in. That was probably how I would have gone in, and probably would have been pleasantly surprised, as you said, because it I mean, who would have thought Anthony Perkins comes back 23 years later to play this role again? And of course, Hitchcock at that, was he dead by then?
Yeah, Hitchcock had passed in 1980.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, Alfred Hitchcock Presents was on television and probably in reruns and syndication at the time, but his last film, Family Plot, had come out in 1976, so not too far removed from an Alfred Hitchcock film. I would have to go back and look at the marketing of the time, but they probably plastered Alfred Hitchcock's name all over it to sell the movie.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, like on movie posters and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know if you could go back and watch the original trailer. I bet you it says like,
it's on I haven't watched it. It's on the disc.
Oh, is it on the disc? Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this, just a hypothetical. So obviously we did get sequels, and we know who directed them sequels, but just as a fun game, obviously Alfred Hitchcock first one, Richard Franklin the second one. He's a big fan. We know there's other filmmakers that are big fans of Hitchcock. What would be in a fantasy league? Who would be another big fan of Hitchcock that's a director that you would like to see direct a Psycho sequel? I'm thinking M. Night Shyamalan.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say it.
Yeah. Because his movies are essentially like the same type of movies Hitchcock would make, and
the third act twists,
like Signs as well. Signs is
If you want, for those of you who have Dial M for Murder, I'm pretty sure M. Night Shyamalan is on one of the special features talking about Hitchcock and Dial M for Murder. So that's a direct connection right there.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think. I mean,
there's also like Brian De Palma.
Yeah.
It would be another one.
Yeah, how many times have we talked about his movies were essentially Alfred Hitchcock riffs, if you will? You could just even like Sisters, so many things. I
would also say somebody maybe like a David Fincher would be interesting, a sequel for Psycho, just because he tends to have like noir elements, and he's obviously into that taboo, killer thing.
Well, even something like Gone Girl was kind of a Hitchcockian thriller with that, there being
well, with him,
mystery.
the one that comes to mind, actually, as far as Hitchcock and I haven't watched it in years, is Panic Room, and I could see him sort of exploring the house the same way he explores the house in that film. Just, digital technology helps, but just sort of going from room to room. And
I could see him remaking Rear Window. You could do like Rear Window. That would be awesome.
Well, they did remake Rear Window.
Well, they did. Disturbia too.
Yeah, I was gonna say Disturbia. I actually watched Disturbia way before I watched Rear Window.
That's
so
funny.
That was like my expectations.
Yeah. Any other directors before we? Yeah.
I think I mean it's a little more kind of in a different type of direction. Jordan Peele kind of has a little bit of that. I'm thinking of Us. There's mystery elements in there, twisted elements in there, suspense in there. But he's more of in the like Twilight Zone type of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is more pushing towards like sci-fi and social commentary things. Hitchcock was more of like murder mystery, suspense, things like that. But it feels very much like there could be a crossover there.
Yeah, I can see that. Awesome. Well, I'm a fan. I'm glad you enjoyed your first time at Psycho 2.
Yeah.
Are you gonna check out the rest of the sequels?
Well, I did watch 3. But I know we're just talking about the one film.
Sure.
I did watch 3. I didn't watch the 4th one, the TV film, but I've got it, so I can.
Yeah, you'll get to it. You'll get to it one day. You'll come back on Unwatched Pile and do Psycho 4. No, I was kidding. But awesome. That's good. Andrew, please tell us about your first time watch, which I believe is the 1963 film The Great Race.
It is indeed. As I type it into IMDb right now. The Great Race. So I've got the Warner Archive disc that came out several years ago. I think it came out 2014. Okay, so that was right around the time where Warner Brothers was still putting out their old catalog stuff a bit through their main line. But then that was kind of when they were transitioning to kind of putting all of their catalog stuff to come out through the Warner Archive line. Now, this is a film directed by Blake Edwards. Blake Edwards being the director behind Breakfast at Tiffany's, Days of Wine and Roses, I believe, is another film of his. And then, of course, he did all of the Pink Panther films starring Peter Sellers, even the one in which they were making when Peter Sellers passed away. Or it was kind of like a clips one that they made later on, the last one with Peter Sellers. So he's known for being kind of a diverse director, if you will. I'm losing my voice already. I haven't even started talking. But this film is interesting because I had gone into it relatively blind. Obviously, I had known who the stars of it were, being Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis, and Natalie Wood. Jack Lemmon being quite an astonishing actor. Talk about a diverse actor who I think is known primarily for his comedic work, but some of his more the dramatic work, like I mentioned, Days of Wine and Roses, just so fantastic. But this film is the complete opposite spectrum of dramatic. This is about as slapsticky a comedy as one can find. You have there's this world where Tony Curtis is this archetypical, like, professional hero character, and Jack Lemmon is his nemesis, is just the most slapsticky, mustache twirling, snidely whiplashy from the Dudley Do-Right that you could possibly imagine an antagonist can be. Just over the top physical comedy, things like that. So the premise of this film is that it takes place at the turn of the century. So we're talking, 1800s to 1900s, and the automobile is kind of a brand new thing. So a bunch of these companies decide to make their own specific automobile, specifically tailor-made to make this trip around the world. Not really around the world. They're going from New York to Paris. But what I find interesting about this is they're not going east, New York, overseas to Europe, and then to Paris. They're going west. So that means they got to go across the United States, into Asia, all across Asia, into Europe, all the way to Paris, which of course is one of the reasons why this movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes long. It's 160 minutes because you have so much traveling. But along the way, they get into all kinds of wacky situations. You have the Natalie Wood character in this film who is working for this newspaper company. She's representing them as a participant in this race, and she is all about. She's part of this, like this sub story, this secondary story in the movie about women's suffrage and women's rights that's going on around this time in the United States. So she's part of that, and so she is very much like doing it for representation of women. The women can drive across just like the men can, and all this kind of stuff. And she's great in the film. Tony Curtis is very much bravado. He's the big hero guy, super handsome, very much the protagonist of the film. And just along the way, they get into all kinds of madcap and zaniness ensues. Really, I very much enjoyed the movie because the actors are so captivating. But I will say, if you're not into like slapstick comedy, things like physical comedy, over the top comedy, things like that, things like because the film was, I believe, dedicated to Laurel and Hardy, so that type of comedy, that type of old school comedy, maybe this won't be for you. Also, I mean, they try to use the special effects at the time that they possibly can, like they use rear projection a lot when they're using like close-ups or medium shots of them like driving a car, or sometimes they'll be like flying in a hot air balloon and you'll see the background is either a matte painting or just a really bad rear projection. Well, bad by our contemporary standards, but still, the best at the time. So that may take you out of the film, but you gotta put this movie in the time in which it came out, which was 1965 or so. So you gotta like really put yourself in that place. Yeah, so this movie is, something that I really, really enjoyed. Like I said, you'll notice a couple of other actors will pop up in this movie. For example, Peter Falk plays this character called Maximilian Mean. He is the kind of the sidekick to Jack Lemmon's character, whose name is Professor Fate. You can kind of guess that these names are very cartoonish because this film is very much a live action cartoon at times, in my opinion. And you have Keenan Wynn shows up in this film. Vivian Vance, who of course was on the I Love Lucy show back in the 50s. She's in this movie as well. She's part of that whole women's suffrage and women's rights plotline that goes on. At one point in this movie, Larry Storch shows up as like this mean, like Western bad guy. Larry Storch, who of course was on F Troop back in the day. That was a Nick at Night staple for me growing up in the 90s, was F Troop. So yeah, you get some cameos in here that of people you may recognize, and I did rather enjoy the movie. When it comes to these Warner Archive releases, they are a little lean when it comes to special features. On this one here, you fortunately get a 15-minute special feature that is kind of a behind the scenes, like not sizzle reel, but a behind the scenes like look at some B-roll stuff of like you'll get somebody narrating saying, "Oh, look, here is the stars of our movie, Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis. They're playing pool while they're waiting to go next on set," or there'll be an actress on the side and they'll be like, "Oh, looks like someone is reciting their lines." It was kind of like a studio promo made thing that they probably made back when this movie was in production in order to promote it before it came out or after it came out. So that was kind of an interesting archival feature. But other than that, I don't think there's anything else in terms of feature. Oh, the trailer, which not really a feature if you consider it. But yeah, that's awesome. That's The Great Race. Blake Edwards.
Yeah, it sounds like one of them farce comedies, that were very popular at the time. And I know Scott said he had seen it as well, so he was excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I saw it a while ago. It's fun. I mean, it's not wall-to-wall laughs, but it's a lot of fun. My friends at La La Land Records actually put out the complete remastered score of the film on a 3-disc set, and with their usual informative booklet. But it's a lot of fun. It looks great. And I swear to this, I've never seen an actor have more fun than Jack Lemmon in this movie.
He is hamming it up so hard in this movie, like going to the nines. Like he's just going for broke in every scene of just with the accent, with the clothes he's wearing. I mean, with even the car he's driving is this like this souped up like Model T car that has like a cannon that pops out of the front of it and like shoots things and then blows up things. And he just has the wax. Yeah, just incredible. And I didn't even notice that his sidekick was Peter Falk until like halfway into the movie. I'm like, Peter Falk's in this? Where is he? Because I'm so used to him as Columbo. But this was obviously predates Columbo a bit, I think. So yeah, he was in there. Natalie Wood was just radiant in this movie, and her and Tony Curtis, of course, have a romance. And the movie looks fantastic. I believe it was in Technicolor, or something into it.
And
so
it
looks great.
When they're in the old West town, the song that Dorothy Provine sings, "He shouldn't have oughtn't hadn't a swang on me," which is a catchy, fun song. And then when you listen to it, though, it's like it's a song about spousal abuse.
Right.
But it's a lot of fun, and it's Blake Edwards. So you got Henry Mancini, you have songs, and and then of course at the end, big pie fight.
Yeah, there's a big pie fight in this movie at the end, and everyone's just getting doused in pie. It's that type of humor where like a pie fight breaks out. And I mean, there's a sequence where they're going over the Bering Strait, which is the border between Alaska and Russia. That's how they're getting to Asia, and like a polar bear shows up and like gets in one of their cars, and it's like, and then they just start screaming and run away and stuff like that. It's so it's so much fun. Yeah, and like you said, Jack Lemmon he's just carrying all the humor, really. Yeah, and at one point he switches to another character who's this very effeminate like prince of a country who's about to be crowned king, but he's always drunk the whole time. So it's Jack Lemmon playing drunk and effeminate at the same time, and it's played for laughs, obviously, because it's 1965. But he's just doing it all in this movie. He really is. So yeah, I do recommend it for old Hollywood fans and stuff like that.
Awesome. Great. Before we get to the first, I got mine, of course. Before I would get to mine, Josephine wanted to ask Scott a question. She said, Scott, which movie of 2023 would you like to see MST3K make fun of?
Wow. To be honest, I don't think I've seen enough movies from 2023. I'm gonna
seen any bad ones?
Not really. And usually I'm trying to catch up on older films.
What about, did you see Cocaine Bear?
No.
That would be one. That would be
one. Let's say that then.
Just because premise, that the premise of it is already at a level of absurdity that lends to comedy.
Let's say
I got you, Scott. Yeah, Cocaine Bear. All right. So my first time watch was one that I really had been kind of wanting to get around to for a while. And I actually recently purchased this because it was in a Dollar General for like $2. So I was like, why not? I've been needing to watch this, and I don't own it yet. And that is the Best Picture winner of 2011, The Artist. And so I chose this because, the Oscar nominees just happened. I figured I'd throw a little Oscar love in there. And of course, as a fan, and he gets a lot of nominations, I got my Christopher Nolan shirt on. In Nolan we trust. I've had this shirt for like 8 years. I've been waiting for a reason to wear it. So The Artist won Best Picture 2011 Oscars, and you're gonna have to help me, Andrew, because I can't pronounce things. So the director is French.
Yes.
Mikel Hazanavicius.
Hazanavicius, I think is the name.
Yeah. It's a cool name, but I can't say it. And the lead actors are Jean Dujardin.
That's pretty close. Why not?
Yeah. And then the lead actress is Bernice Benjo.
I say Bejo.
Bejo? Okay. Yeah. But yes, so the film is it is a silent film, and it's about the silent era. And it takes place, I think, right around, it's like 1920 something. It might be end of the 20s. But basically, Jean plays this big time silent film actor, and it kind of starts off showing, his celebrity, and then he kind of runs into the lead actress. I wish I had the names of the characters right now. Peppy Miller is her name. And she's just a young aspiring actress that he runs into. They kind of hit it off, and then they kind of go their separate ways. But then happenstance brings them back together, and then she gets a chance to work with him, and then her star rises. She becomes a big star, and then from there, we start to get into the talkies. The silent era starts to fade away, and the talkies start to emerge, and she becomes a big star with that. And he his pride doesn't allow him to try to make his way into it. He doesn't feel like he can. And so he tries to hold on to being a silent film actor until it kind of brings him down to, almost nothing in the sense of popular culture of that time. So it's a story of that, a story we've heard in other films. I won't mention them yet, but very simple story, but really charming, really well made. When you're recreating a silent film and you're actually making it's actually silent, it takes a lot of skill, takes a lot of, directing your actors and in a way that is evoking emotion and invoking, in this case, of course, you're using title cards to say some of the lines, but for the most part, there is no dialogue of any kind. So you have to evoke everything through looks and through camera movement and through a lot of things like that. And of course, with updated technology, this is like the best looking silent film ever, and it's the best, maybe you could debatably say the best acted silent film ever, because acting has taken a step up in the years since that time, where, a lot of people were stage actors. A lot of people, never acted in front of a camera before. So things have changed, techniques have changed. And so it's an amazing looking silent film. And, they do shoot it in like a 1:3:1 aspect ratio. So you get the right kind of the aspect ratio a lot of films from that time had. And yeah, it's just a very charming, very, some people I was reading some negative reviews on this film, and some people had a hard time saying it's like a lot of older films, no character development, no this and that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, these characters are rich. They through their actions build these characters out. And I think it's just a really well done performance all around. I mean, not only did this film win Best Picture, but the director won Best Director, and lead actor won Best Actor. I think it won 5 Academy Awards all around. I think cinematography might have been editing in there as well. So it is a Oscar movie. I would say, kind of prototypical, movie about filmmaking. But it is a really charming and well done, and nobody does this. Nobody makes a movie like this. So it's a very unique film. And embarrassingly, at the time when this movie was coming out, I rejected this movie as well, with a really kind of just dumb opinion. My opinion of it at the time was, what's the point of making a silent film today? Like, it's dumb. Like, I had no good take on why I thought this movie was worth seeing or not seeing. I was just like, it's dumb. Why would you go back? Why would you take sound out of the movie on purpose and, make a silent movie today? That's dumb. Now I'm a totally different, I don't think that way anymore. And I think it was a great challenge and a great thing to do something like this at this time and challenge the audiences too. And this film ended up making a good amount of money. And I think it only was like a $15 million budget, and it made like $133 million worldwide. So it made a good chunk of money for a movie like this. That's pretty great. So anybody else here has seen The Artist?
I haven't seen it since it was released. I remember enjoying it. I remember speaking of Hitchcock, I remember there was some controversy over the Vertigo score being used in it. I remember liking it. I confess I haven't seen it since. I like that actor. I assume he's still working internationally. It's a shame he didn't quite break out here. I think he was in that movie Clooney put him in, Monuments Men.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Which I was actually disappointed with that film. But
that's not a good movie. I fell asleep in that movie.
But
he was also in Wolf of Wall Street. He played
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he hasn't quite broke out over here, but I'm sure he's a pretty well known
he's still
actor.
working a lot overseas, actually, just looking at his IMDb. But yeah, this is one of those movies. I mean, I don't think I have seen it since I bought it on Blu-ray, probably when it came out in 2011 or 2012, which is probably when the Blu-ray came out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a movie that I think just kind of gets lost and forgotten. It's one of those forgotten Best Picture winners, where it's like if you see those lists of like, movies that you forgot won Best Picture, The Artist is always on it. The Artist is always on it. And I guess some people like to put it on, worst Best Picture winners of all time or something like that. That's subjective stuff. But
subjective, but I
don't consider that they're worse Best Picture winners than that. Than The Artist.
Yeah. There are, and maybe there was better movies that year. I haven't looked to see what else was nominated or what else came out that year, but it's still a really, really good movie and it's a unique movie, and it's I think it's well worth celebrating.
I think, as a sucker for movies about movie making and for movies that are about a specific time in movie history, the transition from silent to talkies. I always like that era. That's just kind of a very, I would say, important era of film history was that era, that time period, just because it very much leads into our modern day concept of what movies are. They're audio and visual mediums. You know what I mean? They got both of them combined together to make entertainment, really, and to make art and stuff like that. I can tell you that, it's a movie that I haven't thought about in a very long time. I believe that was the first year that we got the expanded Best Picture nominees, or maybe it was the second year. It was one of those early years. So that year, Steven, if you're curious,
I'm curious.
The Artist.
Oh, I just pulled it up myself.
Yeah. Okay. The Artist, Hugo, Moneyball, The Help, Warhorse, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, Midnight in Paris, The Descendants, and The Tree of Life.
I'll be honest with you.
That's an interesting group of films.
It's an interesting crop. And honestly, it might have been deserving for that year. And I mean, there's other movies in that list I like. Something like I like The Help a lot. I know that was a very popular movie. Hugo, that's one that I think has gotten better with age. And of course, another movie about movies in a way. I mean, it's another film that's about the love of film.
Yeah. It's about, if anything, it's about the pre-era of, not the pre-era of sound, but like the earlier days with George Méliès. So these two movies kind of go hand in hand if you were doing an Unwatched Pile, Steven.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying anything yet.
I know.
My turn yet.
But I'm surprised you're not shouting for the rooftops for Moneyball. Such a big baseball guy.
I do love Moneyball, but I wouldn't say Best Picture of the Year. What was the next one after that? You said Moneyball.
The Help, Warhorse.
See, I love Warhorse, but that's
Spielberg,
and nobody wants to give Spielberg another Best Picture, so that's fine.
Midnight in Paris.
I don't like Woody Allen. So.
The Descendants, Alexander Payne.
I do like Alexander Payne, but that movie was middle for me.
And then the Tree of Life, Terrence Malick.
I've grown on that one. So it's I think The Artist deserved that one that year. I really do. Based off of that crop of movies, there could have been movies outside of that were better that just didn't get nominated. But enough of my movie. Let's move on to the secret pairings. So all of us chose a film in our collections that we decided to pair it with. And Scott, please tell us what you paired with Psycho 2.
I don't have my collection handy at the moment to.
No, you're good. You're okay.
My first impulse after watching the film, and we mentioned the director earlier, I thought of Carrie.
Okay.
You have, on one hand, you have the mom issues. On the other hand, you have someone who's, just trying to get by, and people are making the character's life miserable.
Yeah.
Whether it's Carrie being bullied or Norman being, people in Psycho 2 wanting to drive him insane, so he's locked up again.
Yeah.
That was like my first impulse was that was it. A sympathetic character who's just trying to get through the day and has been through some stuff, and there are people who just don't want to see that happen.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like
that.
I like that.
Mom issues.
Definitely, yeah. And that one got a 4K release just I think released this week or last week.
Well, yeah.
From Arrow.
Shout Studios had put out a 4K last year or the year before. Things are starting to run together. And then I think Arrow just put out their upgrade of their Blu-ray edition this week. Yeah. So yeah, Carrie is an all-time classic, really. I mean, it's so culturally iconic. I've read the book, and the book is actually mightily different than the movie adaptation. Rather different in terms of just the way in which the story is told and the character of Carrie and things like that. But yeah, that's always a classic Brian De Palma. Like we just mentioned, Brian De Palma did so many, kind of Hitchcock, type of movies. He was really emulating him a lot in his career. And yeah, I totally agree with that. That's a good comparison.
It's a good pairing. Yep, definitely. Did you ever see the remake, the one with what's her name?
Chloe Grace Moretz?
Yeah, Chloe Grace Moretz. No. It's not terrible. I mean, Julianne Moore plays the mom, and she's great. It's solid remake. It's not bad. But yeah, I like it. Carrie and Psycho 2. Now, which one would you watch first? I like to always add that. Which one would you watch first, and then which would be the second film?
That's probably Psycho 2, although damn, now I'm not really sure. Now that I'm thinking of it, I'm not really sure. We'll say Psycho 2 though.
Psycho 2 and then Carrie.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that because then you can end it with the big bloodbath at the end. That's a good ending. Yeah.
I do like the kind of reappraisal of Carrie. Not reappraisal, but I think as time has gone on, people have looked at Carrie as the hero of that story, as opposed to probably the previous generation or my parents actually probably saw it in the theater, and they probably just saw her as the evil villain. But over time, it's it's no, she's the hero. Kind of interesting reappraisal. Yeah, so
awesome.
Do you want to move on to my?
I guess we'll hear yours.
Righty then.
What is your pairing with The Great Race?
Oh, so to no big surprise here, this was the easiest pairing. It's a mad world.
I knew it was going to be that, and I almost brought it up earlier, but I was like, I don't want to do what he did to me, so that's fine.
Yeah, I know. It's actually really hard on the show not to bring up movies that could go with other people's picks.
Yeah, you try not to spoil somebody's pairing.
I've done that before. So it's a mad world. This predates The Great Race by about 2 years. This came out in 1963. This is directed by Stanley Kramer. Stanley Kramer, who had done such films as Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, as well as I think he did Judgment at Nuremberg, and then he had done Inherit the Wind was the other kind of court one, the Defiant Ones. I believe he was either a producer on or directed that. But yeah, I've always been a fan of Stanley Kramer's work, but it's a mad world. Actually, I'd never seen this movie until I bought this Blu-ray from Criterion that came out in 2014. And I had always heard about it. It had been released obviously on DVD and VHS and Laserdisc, everything in the past. It's kind of a classic, one of those movies that they don't do them so much anymore. But they used to do them quite frequently, where you kind of get a bunch of, famous actors and put them in a movie together. I'm thinking of
yeah, we don't get the road version of that. We got that movie. What was that one they did with the world, the end of the world, the world's end, or the one with Seth Rogen and
the comedy? Yeah.
Well, we also got Rat Race.
Well, yeah, we did.
Yeah. What's interesting? I was actually going to think about choosing Rat Race, but I don't have it in my collection.
Mm-hmm.
I've never owned it on DVD or on Blu-ray. I know that the Blu-ray finally came out a few years ago for Rat Race, and thing is, it's another one where I had seen a newer version of an older film before I had seen the original. So I had seen Rat Race probably on television because they put it on cable so much. Yeah. And then years later, I would see It's a Mad World. And so this movie here is similar to The Great Race in the sense that it's dealing with a bunch of people on a great race. And so so this film is 3 hours and 30 minutes. I think there's several cuts of this movie actually. This cut here is 163 minutes, but I think there's a much longer cut of this movie as well. I don't know why it says that on IMDb, but I think there is a much longer cut of this movie. it's a movie that is just filled with so many actors that you're going to recognize. Chiefly amongst them is Spencer Tracy. He's kind of the main person we're following along on this journey. So, and this journey starts with a bunch of these people like witness a horrific car crash on a highway or on a road or something, and the person who is in this crash is dying. Like these are his last breaths, and he decides to tell these complete and utter strangers that there is like a hidden cache of money somewhere, and he gives them the location. So of course, money being the root of all evil, as they say, or greed being the root of all evil, or the great motivator, get all these people are now want to go get this money. So they're all trying to one up each other, trying to outrace each other to get to this money, and and zaniness and wild things ensue. Milton Berle's in this film, Ethel Merman's in this film, Mickey Rooney, Buddy Hackett, Sid Caesar, Jonathan Winters. So many people show up in here. Joey Brown, and at one point the Three Stooges make a cameo, and the way they do it is they just basically they're firemen and they're just standing there with like fireman outfits on, and that's the Three Stooges cameo. I guess just to say they had Three Stooges in this film. I think Buster Keaton makes a cameo in this film as well. So
Jerry Lewis.
Jerry Lewis makes a cameo. Jim Backus. So many people are in this movie. And it's just kind of like one cameo after another as you go along on this long road trip to get to this money. It's a wonderful, like, great film. I think it's the one that everyone goes back to when they're thinking of these great adventure race type of movies. This is the one that kind of gets to people. And of course, like Around the World in 80 Days is another one. But yeah, I very much love this movie. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Stanley Kramer's a great director. This release here is just filled with special features through the moon. If you look on the back here, like all of that has all the details of all the special features. Just go on to Blu-ray.com and you'll see the 2 discs filled with special features. This was, I believe this was the dual format edition, the first run of when Criterion was putting out dual format editions back in 2013, 2014. I've always said on the show, I loved that time where we would be able to get the Blu-ray and DVD combo packs from Criterion, and they got rid of them because people complained. And I was like, I wasn't one of them. I loved it. And now, irony is they're kind of back with the 4K and Blu-ray combo packs we get now from Criterion. So I guess I won out eventually. Just had to wait like 10 years, but I won out eventually.
I don't know why people complain though. Why would you complain about having it?
I think it's because at the time people were still, I mean, even majority today still collect just DVDs versus the Blu-rays. I guess they just wanted to buy the DVDs. I guess
grow up, people. Grow up.
Yeah, I remember this packaging here being so interesting because it still is the kind of fold out accordion style packaging, which is a bit of a relic of the past as things go flying out of here. So you get like, it's a mad, mad, mad world. I've always loved that. I wouldn't be surprised if this gets a 4K re-release someday soon from somewhere. Don't know who's got the 4K rights right now, but I just feel like this movie definitely lends to that.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of them, this was like a foundational Criterion for me. Like it was one of the first ones I got because it's so recognizable right off the bat. It's, when you're first collecting Criterion, you're looking for things you recognize because it's such a daunting task to delve into the Criterion collection. So you look for things that have actors or directors, and this was one of them. This is the Mad World had so many actors. I was like, oh, I know who that is. I know who that is. So I just blind bought it, and that's still in there. I still have that dual format as well. So
yeah, I remember getting it probably because it came out in January of 2014. So I probably bought it at that July Criterion sale. It was probably one of the first things I picked up.
Yeah.
And I own it as well. That one.
Awesome.
It's definitely a movie I appreciate and admire more than I actually enjoy.
It's tough to enjoy a 3.5 hour movie. Sometimes,
like people who call it, like, the movie's not a laugh riot for me. I mean, you have a grin on the whole time, but it's not, it's a spectacle. It's
That's what it is of it all.
You can admire it and appreciate it, but like you said, some of the cameos, like I think Jerry Lewis is in 1 or 2 shots. The Three Stooges are in 1 shot.
Yeah, Don Knotts shows up.
Yeah.
Carl Reiner's in the film as well.
But it's
so many.
No, but it is fun. I love the featurette with Ben Burtt, Craig Barron talking about the sound and the effects, and on the Criterion disc. And I don't watch it often, but I'm glad I own it. Definitely.
Awesome. Yeah. Good pairing once again. Little obvious, Andrew. Jeez.
It was a little
Come
obvious.
on, man. No.
It's kind of, weird thing is, with the movie like The Great Race, it's so specific, it's so slapsticky, comedy-wise, that it's tough to compare it with the comedy. So I was like, what's another movie about a great race? And I was thinking it's a Mad, Mad, Mad World. I could have actually done a pairing with Some Like It Hot because of the Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon retaming. That would have been a nice pairing as well.
You can go so many different angles with these pairings. You can either focus on the actors or the stories or the themes or whatever you want to do a good pairing. So, yeah, I mean, but I tend to go either story or themes, just because that's how my brain works when I'm looking at a story. So, yeah, still great pairing. It'll be a long double feature. Which one you watching first?
That's a tough question. It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World is so long, but I feel like, I don't know. I think the way I would do it would be Great Race, and then It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World, because I feel like The Great Race would prep you well for the journey, the longer journey of It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World.
Yeah, I got you. No, that works for, and if you do get tired, you fall asleep in Mad, Mad, Mad World. Instead of missing both movies.
Right.
You get through The Great Race, and then you start the Mad, 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 Mad World, and then if you could fall out, or you've watched, you then watch like 5 hours of movies of 2 movies. So, yeah, cool.
It's done. It's been done before.
It's been done.
But yeah.
But, all right. So now I will reveal my pairing, which is I always have fun doing this because I always try to find something that is like left field a little bit. So as Andrew alluded to, there are some obvious pairings. Hugo is a nice little pairing that would go good with the artist. Of course, the really obvious one is Singing in the Rain. Singing in the Rain is essentially the same story of a man going, a silent movie actor going into talkies and then having trouble dealing with that. Of course, that's more of a musical too. There's more music and dancing in that film and the artist has dancing in it, but that would have been a lot more of an obvious pairing. And there's some other ones. There's some other ones that maybe could, you could even like do Chaplin, with Robert Downey Jr. About a silent movie actor that is delving straight in on him. But I wanted to go something a little different, but I kind of focused in on the relationship because at the heart of the artist, it is a love story. And I thought about a love story that I was trying to think of a love story that would go down a very similarly, one that delved with 2 people that are artists that one's a very successful one, one's a newcomer, and how they fall in love and also fall in love with each other's, art, and one rises and one falls. And I couldn't think, there's many versions of this movie, but I decided to go with the most recent one because it's the one I have in my collection and I really do like it a lot. And that is A Star is Born. So, as I allude to, A Star is Born is, about, you got Bradley Cooper, who does direct this film as well. Stars in this and plays Jack, and he's a rock artist. Maybe he's country rock, I don't know. But he's a big star. He's big star, and he's also kind of a drinker. He's also, he substance abuse. He's, got a lot of personal things going on. And then he, by happenstance, meets Lady Gaga's character, Allie, who's a very good very songwriter singer. They kind of hit it off, and then he kind of takes her into the life. And then also kind of, brings her along, gives her the confidence she needs to break into the music industry. And so during that, he's proud of her, but he starts to see her get kind of taken in by the industry. And that's part of it too. It's not just that it's not really that he's necessarily falling, his stardom's falling. It's more that he's fading because on a personal level, which the biggest crux of it is that he has a hard time dealing with the realities of being such a big star, and the industry, and seeing her kind of get sucked in by the commercialism and not really true to herself. And that's what he gets like kind of brought down by more than anything. But I thought that story fit really well with the artist, and kind of where the two characters go in the story, and how it ends. It's very similar in a way. Of course, I'm not going to give away the endings of both of these movies, but have very similar connections in that way. And I just thought that, I would start watching The Artist because it gives you early cinema. It gives you a very similar love story, and then bring it in and watch A Star is Born, a more updated version. But instead of movie making, this is about music. So you get a different art, and you get two different people and a love story that's more connective. And it's more about the love story than it is about movies. Like in The Artist, it's about the music, but it's also a lot more about the relationship and the ups and downs and dealing with fame. And I think that all encapsulates both of these movies. So I think this would be a great double feature. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of as a pairing?
I actually haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
But I believe you. It sounds like it'd be a great pairing.
Uh-huh. You a fan of either one of you like Bradley Cooper?
Yeah, I mean, I like the performers. I just haven't seen the film yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a story that has been adapted several times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's like 3 other adaptations of the movie.
There is. Do you want to hear something interesting, Steven? Final Jeopardy the other day was the answer was that movie, or the answer was an aspect of that movie. Yeah. Basically, they kind of asked, what do these actresses have in common, or something like that. And it was Janet Gaynor. It was Janet Gaynor, Judy Garland, and Barbara Streisand. And then who's the next one in this actress pairings? And the next one was Lady Gaga, because they had all starred in adaptations of A Star is Born. Of course, I nailed it, because that's just how I play when it comes to Jeopardy. Always answer the things correctly. But so that's kind of an interesting aspect there. But I do like that kind of like the commonalities between The Artist and A Star is Born with the entertainment industry, and the changing of the entertainment industry on a more personal level. Like you're saying, Lady Gaga's character kind of goes from, obscurity, kind of, a no one to a big star, the rags to riches story, which is something that has been shown in show business and movies and things like that for so many times, and kind of in life in general, and in some other business aspects. But I do like that kind of pairing, how, the entertainment industry, whether it be music, like in A Star is Born, or in movies, are really at the core of it about interpersonal relationships and how they affect you positively or negatively, depending on the story. But yeah, I do like that pairing very much.
Awesome. I always feel good about it. I feel like I want to share these with everybody, but then I don't want to make people not want to watch the show. If you just give them all our pairings, put them all out there, then they won't watch this to find out.
Yeah, and I always do appreciate how your pairings are a little kind of out of left field sometimes.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I do like to try to guess them, but I guess I'm always going to be wrong.
Well, I have to make them left field because I don't want you to accidentally guess them.
Yeah, I know. Very true. Very true.
You taught me very early on I have to pick something weird.
Well, when when your entire life, a good portion of your life, pretty much every waking moment of your day revolves around movies in some way.
Yeah.
And guessing everybody's tendencies, or guessing people's tendencies sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Awesome, man.
Awesome.
Well, I think we got 3 good double features here tonight. Guys, I appreciate y'all being here. Scott, of course, our guest for this week, graphic designer. Tell everybody where they can go to keep up with what work you're doing, and anything you want to promote.
I'm at scottsaslow.com. I'm working on a poster right now for Carlotta Films. I just finished, or I'm about to finish, work on 3 titles Arrow just announced, That Cold Day in the Park.
Awesome.
The layout and booklet with Tom Ralston on artwork. The Scarface Mob layout and booklet with Jen Dionycio on artwork. And then a film called Behind Convent Walls.
Yeah.
No new art, but a fun shot from the film on the cover that looks like their previous Borowitz releases. And what else? Working on a soundtrack for I Am 8-Bit, the same company that I worked for last year on the Super Mario movie soundtrack. And I'm about to start work. I'm not doing the art, but everything else on a new title for Fun City. In fact, I'm probably going to start on that when we're done here, actually.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yes. Love Fun City editions. Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Scott, for joining us. I'm glad we could take a movie off your Unwatched pile for you.
Thank you.
Oh no, that's what we do here. It's not only is it we're helping other people out, hopefully, and we're motivating people to watch stuff in their collections. But hey, dude, I got so much shit I got to watch. We got to do it. So, but as usual, this will not only be here safely on YouTube. Well, I don't know how safe YouTube can be crazy. I'm said something that got us taken down or something. I don't know. But this will, of course, also be on the audio podcast as well, probably sometime tomorrow. So with that said, everybody have a good night. And hey, what are you watching this? Go watch one of the movies on your Unwatched Pile. See you later.